Tonight, game one of the Eastern Conference Finals. According to DraftKings, I got the Pacers getting 10. Celtics overwhelming favorites to reach the NBA Finals. Let's bring in our good buddy Jamal Crawford, Turner sports analyst, former NBA player, three-time NBA Sixth Man of the Year. Jamal, we spent a lot of time on this. Chet Holmgren was named to the All-Rookie team his second year in the league. Where do you stand on rookies who are in their second year and they make rookie team, or some have won Rookie of the Year?
Well, it was his first time on the court, so I'm okay with that. But I think absolutely him being able to watch the game, get stronger, getting the rhythm of NBA travel, getting the rhythm of how the NBA works without actually playing is almost like having the answers to the test, because you start seeing things a little bit differently, and it helps prepare you for that second year, but your first technical year of playing.
Well, he's kind of a red shirt freshman, isn't he?
Yeah, in a way, it absolutely is. And that could be some of the foundation for his career going forward, just being able to get all that knowledge first.
All right, let's turn our attention to tonight's game. Can you remember a team with this much pressure on it to win, that they have to win?
Ooh, that they have to win? I would have to go back to like the Heatles with the Heat. Yeah, they had a lot of pressure on them when they got together, so I think for these guys, it's all or nothing. Everybody knows it. It's been like that all year.
Okay. How does it not happen? Like, they have the talent. They are young, and it felt like that pressure got to them before. How do you learn how to win a championship?
Well, you learn from your mistakes, and they actually have been to the championship series. I think for them, and I've said it all year, they're as talented as five as there is in the league. But what can get them is trust. Are you going to trust the same way you do when you're up 10, when you're up 15, the ball's hopping, everybody's touching it? Or are you going to revert to going one-on-one and more isolation basketball? And I think when they do that, that's when they allow teams to stay around, and that's when they put even more pressure on themselves if they don't need to.
Yeah, we keep waiting to anoint Jason Tatum as maybe the face of the league. But I don't know if he's ever going to be the face of the league. He's a wonderful player, but I don't even know if he wants to be the face of the league. What is the rap on Jason Tatum?
Well, he's accomplished a lot at a young age. I think when he actually wins a championship, because he'll win one, when he wins one, I think people will look at his whole career and the totality of the stuff he has done. And Dan, to be honest with you, after the LeBron and the KDs and the Stephs, continue on, I'm not sure there will be just one face of the league. I think you'll need a bunch of guys. I think you'll need Victor. You'll need the Chets. You'll need Tatum. You'll need Ant. You'll need Luka. You'll need all these guys to kind of help push the league forward, because seeing the LeBrons and Stephs and those type of guys that's going to be tough to top.
How much did bowing out the way he did against Ant and the Wolves, is it going to put a dent in the Joker's legacy?
I'm not sure he bowed out. I think he brought it. Watching him up close for as much as I did this playoff run, it's fascinating. You really have to combine 4 or 5 players to be this guy. Like he's not just playing against the players, he's playing against the coach. And that's what makes him different. Like I'm not always playing against you guys. Let me see what he's doing. Oh, you did that? Okay, I'll do this. I did that, I'll do that. So he is a one of one, and he is special and fun to watch.
Okay, but what is it about him? Because he's like a hybrid there of players. It's not like you go, oh, he reminds me of.
Right.
Because I don't know if there's anybody like him.
No, there's not just one person like him. He has some of Hakeem's footwork. Then he brings out the Kareem skyhook on the same possession. Oh, then he'll no-look you and pass like Magic the Bird. The thing that's interesting and really special about him, besides his mind, is he can kind of blend 2 eras. He can play 90s bullies ball and get in there and make you look small. Or he can step out, hit threes, get to the dribble handoffs, and make plays on the perimeter like the players do today, the bigger guys. So he's the one guy that can kind of blend 2 eras. Oh, and I can score 40 whenever I want, but sometimes I'll score 40 when I don't want to as well. And he can pass and find everybody. He's a special player.
Yeah,
one of the best.
And he's one of the selfless players. When you think of great players, Steve Nash comes to mind. He won a couple MVPs. They had to tell him to shoot. Joker's had a couple of seasons where He was like 20th in shot attempts, and that's saying a whole lot for an MVP.
And the really, really, really special thing about him, out of all the players I've seen, I've studied the game for a long time. I was just thinking about this. I studied it since I was 8 years old, so 36 years. For a superstar, he makes the right play probably more consistently and at a higher percentage than most superstars I've ever seen. Like, if it calls for me to pass 10 straight times, I'll do that with a smile. If it calls for me to score 5 straight times, I'll do it. He makes the right play almost every single time down the court, and that's almost impossible to do.
Who's a better passer, Joker or Patrick Mahomes?
Mm. I would give Joker the advantage only because his height, he can see different angles and things he can't see. And I'm a basketball guy, right? I'm a basketball guy, so I got to say that. Mahomes is ridiculous.
Does Denver need to make big changes to its roster?
I think they need to solidify their bench a little bit more. I think when they lost Brown last year and they lost Jeff Green, I thought that hurt them big time, because it took out guys that can switch. It took out athletic guys. It took out vet guys. It took out almost another set of playmakers as well. If you saw when Jamal Murray really got off in the series, he got off the ball. He let Gordon or Joker bring the ball up, which freed him to kind of play the attack game. And their team is built for him to be the attacker. So I think they need a couple more playmakers. Are
dynasties dead in the NBA?
I'm not sure they're dead, but I think they'll be harder to do. When you go back and think about Jordan winning 3, taking a year and a half off and come back and win 3 more, we'll never see that again. And especially the way player movement is as well, the way contracts are structured. Guys, you remember in the 80s, like we knew everybody on the Celtics. We knew it was Ainge and Bird and Parrish and McHale and all these guys. We knew everybody on the Lakers with Scott and Magic and Worthy and Rambis and Kareem. So we don't identify our players like that anymore, just being with that team. Now we just kind of follow the player.
Yeah, I wonder with the salary structure, with the salary cap, and moving forward, can you have big threes? And I don't know if you can. I mean, Phoenix has it, but it's not going to work for them. OKC has a lot of young players under contract. Minnesota, they're not necessarily a young. I mean, Rudy's been around a while, and so is Cat. But so I don't know what Boston's got those 2 guys under contract, and Tatum and Brown. I'm just curious if teams try to get that 3rd star, or they use the money to maybe even out the roster and add a little bit more on the bench.
Well, you heard Kendrick Lamar in the rap beef. He said it's no big 3, it's just big me. Now it's just the big me. It's just I think you're right. I think it'll be the 2-star kind of model, and you build around that. I actually like that model better, to be honest with you.
I think too.
I think that 3rd guy sacrifices a lot, and he never gets a chance to be him. And I think the 2 guys have to figure it out. And I miss that part of it. Like, okay, it's us 2, it's those 2, but our benches and our role players and our coaching, all that stuff, they come into the game a lot more. And I miss that time period.
Why does it seem like people don't like Drake?
He's been on top for a long time, Dan. Like, it's hard to keep that same fervor when you're. That's why you're Dan Patrick. Like,
but wait, is Drake and LeBron? Is there parallels?
I can see that. Absolutely. I think that might be the basketball version. That might be the rap version for sure. They've been on top for a long time.
Okay, but who's better at what they do, Drake or LeBron?
I would say LeBron. I think Drake is one of the greatest artists ever. I think LeBron's one of the greatest basketball players ever, but at a higher tier.
Do you believe LeBron's not involved in the coaching search for the Lakers?
I think LeBron, if he says he's not, I'm going to take him for his word. But I would think a player of that magnitude, they kind of know what's going on. At least in my experiences of playing with top players, they were in the loop. And when they weren't in the loop, they were a little upset by that.
Okay, but LeBron does a podcast with J.J. Redick.
Yes.
Do you think at some point, maybe when they're not recording, that Bron says something to J.J. or J.J. says something to Bron about coaching the Lakers?
There has to be some conversation there, Dan. Like,
right?
Yeah, they respect each other's basketball intellect. They would not have done a pod together. That could just be normal friends talking. Like we're talking coaching right now, right? So I'm sure they've had some type of conversation about that.
What advice would you give Bronny James?
You know what? I watched him at the combine, and even before that, you can go back to my tweets. I love how he plays. I love how he was raised. His humility, like And now I'm in the AAU circuit because I'm coaching my son. So I know what it's like to be like, the famous kid and everybody's kind of watching you and hoping things don't go well for you. He handles it beautifully and he knows how to play the game. I'm not into the comparison part of it, but just watching him, he's athletic, he can shoot it, he makes the right play almost all the time. So he'll find his way and he'll definitely be a pro. At what round and what pick, I don't know, but he'll be a pro because he has the right makeup and the right.
Okay, but if I take away the name, let's be honest.
Yeah.
And you went to the combine, are you noticing Bronny James?
Absolutely. 6'1", 40-inch vertical. That's going to jump off the page first. And then you shoot 25 threes, you make 19 of them. I'm watching that as well. And he's making the right play. For somebody to have the name that long and not try to play up to that pressure, I think that's impressive in itself.
What was your vertical?
It wasn't 40. It was 32, and I needed another 8. So it may have been I may have borrowed 8 from somebody else. I think it was like 34, maybe. It wasn't 40, that's for sure.
Okay, but what was it like, the best leaper you saw, where you go, that's not real. Like, that's not fair.
I seen a couple of them. Vince Carter. James Flight White was taken off from the free throw line, and he's assistant coach with the Timberwolves right now in windmilling in high school. Derrick Rose, when I saw him, he was like a world-class track athlete. He was like, he's not even supposed to, he has a supercharger in his body. That's not even supposed to be playing basketball. Like, people forget how athletic and how great he was before any injuries. Derrick Rose is one of my favorites.
Wasn't White from Florida?
I think he was from D.C. He may have went to Florida.
Did he play in Florida?
Yeah. I think you're right. James Flight White. What about you, Dan? Who did you? And of course, MJ, right? Like some guys can only jump off 1 foot or 2 feet. Yeah. He was doing both. Like, who are you? Who are you watching?
Oh, I go back. First guy I ever saw who was different was Elgin Baylor, where he just, his elevation was something where you went, okay, that's different.
Right.
I didn't see Russell play, but I saw just about everybody else athletically. Dr. J in traffic was so great at dunking because he would just get it, go, like big hand, boom, throw it down. Darnell Hillman, I think they called him Dr. Dunk or something. ABA, big afro, Darnell Hillman, I remember. Connie Hawkins, I remember.
Another big afro,
Yeah. Trying to think who else might have been where you just watch and you go, wait a minute, that guy could hit his head on the rim.
Right.
Yeah, that's old school going back.
Kevin Harlan asked me something, and I'm going to ask you.
Okay.
If you could only watch a player who could handle the ball like Magic, right? Not Magic Johnson, but like Magic, look beautiful. Somebody who had the best jumper ever, and somebody who could fly through the air. You can only watch one game of that person. Who would it be? Who's your style?
So who's my player that has all of those?
No, one player that's the best at that. Who would you rather watch? The ball handler, the shooter, or the dunker?
Well, you and me are shooters.
Yes.
So.
Me and you are shooters, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I would take a shooter. Just like I love Maravich is one of the best ball handlers ever. And Kyrie is in there as well. I mean, there's a few guys who are unbelievable. And by ball handling, I always say, how are you in traffic? Because that's really I want to see if tight spaces, can you get out of the tight space? And Kyrie's is
Barry Sanders of basketball. You want to see him get through there.
Great point. Dunking, I don't know. Like, I just never.
Let's say Vince Carter.
I know, but unless he's jumping over Frederick Weiss, I mean, it's just like I got to see Dominique. Dominique always tomahawked. Like, he didn't do one-handed, and he did it in traffic. And I saw Dr. J. Like that. I got spoiled. So Vince is, incredible, but I always found the guys that could jump weren't necessarily the best players because they relied. It's like a beautiful woman who doesn't develop her personality. Like, hey, I'm beautiful. Look at me dunk. And then, can you play? Can you shoot? Can you play deep? All those things. So I'm not as big on the dunking part of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I chose the guy in the tight spaces. I thought shooting was cool, dunking was cool, but the guy that's where the magic happened. So I think I chose, if I could watch one game, I think it would be the Kyrie type player.
Is Kyrie the most talented player who ever played the game?
The most talented?
Yes. Not the best.
Talented. I would say he's one of the most talented and one of the most skilled. I think Jordan checks both boxes. I think Jordan's the most talented. I think he's the most skilled. I think he's the best player. I think he checks every box for me personally. But Kyrie, talent-wise, he is up there. He's the guy that even the talented guys look at and say, "How do you do that?" And that's right. Like that's what separates him for sure.
What's the picture over your shoulder? Over your right shoulder?
Right shoulder or left shoulder?
Right shoulder.
I think that's Jordan, right?
I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah, it's Jordan. It's Jordan. He's ever present, always present.
Omnipresent. Sure. What is he doing in the picture?
He's giving me dap. And that was his first time returning to Chicago, and he had like a 30-minute standing ovation. He had to tell them to stop clapping for him so we could play the game. It was that game.
How'd you do against him that game?
That game, I think I had double figures. I think I had double figures, and I think we ended up winning that game. So I just came back to me. The first game he came back, I was hurt. That was the first time I played against him, though, and I think we won that game. But the first game he came back, they won the game. But he gave me his shoes that first time he came back to Chicago.
You still have them?
I still have them. His first and last shoes he ever wore against the Bulls, he gave me to me.
Look at you.
Yep.
Don't sell them. Don't sell them.
Oh, never, ever. I'll sell me first. I go before the shoes go.
Great to catch up with you, as always. We covered a lot of ground here. Who would have thought we'd be talking, Drake and LeBron? The similarities.
Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you, Jamal.
Right. Thanks, DP. Appreciate it.
That's Jamal Crawford, Turner sports analyst, 3-time NBA Sixth Man of the Year. One of Marvin's favorite players.